Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into three words we all kind of toss around: staples, essentials, and necessities.
Yeah, someone asked for a bit more clarity, right? Because they sound similar, but
Yeah,
aren't.
exactly. So that's the mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Get into the definitions, the, subtle feelings behind them, and how context really changes everything.
It's actually pretty interesting when you break it down. It tells you a lot about how we think about what we need.
Okay, let's jump in. Staples. What's the deal with staples?
Well, staples are basically those items you need or use really regularly. It originally came from food, like grain staples.
Right, like bread, milk, stuff you always have.
Exactly, but now it's broader. Think rice and noodles for many Asian families, or soap and shampoo in the bathroom. Coffee might be a staple for your morning routine.
So it's about that consistency, things you just rely on day in, day out, maybe a bit more informal than the other words.
Precisely. They're important for routine, but maybe not life or death.
Yeah.
Now, essentials shift things a bit.
Okay, how so?
Essentials are defined as absolutely necessary or like extremely important, but for a particular purpose or activity, it's much more situational.
Ah, okay. So like if I'm going camping, my tent is an essential.
Exactly. Or you mentioned the beach earlier, sunscreen, and maybe lip balm become essentials for that trip. They're indispensable in that context.
Got it. Or clean water and like a survival kit.
Yeah.
Essential for survival.
Perfect example. It highlights that situational importance. The need feels a bit stronger, maybe more emotionally charged depending on the situation.
Right. Staples routine, essentials situational importance. So where do necessities fit in? They sound serious.
They generally are. Necessities mean things that are absolutely required. There's
Yeah.
often a more formal, sometimes serious tone. You hear it a lot in legal contexts or policy or humanitarian aid.
So less about my personal beach trip kit and more about basic human needs.
Exactly that. Think food, shelter, clothing, the classic basic human necessities. Or when people talk about needing financial aid for rent or utilities, those are necessities.
Access to healthcare too, maybe.
Increasingly, yes. It's seen by many as a fundamental necessity, not just something good to have. It's about that baseline requirement for living or functioning.
Okay, so we have regular use,
Mm-hmm.
staples, specific importance, essentials, and fundamental requirement, necessities. But surely things can be more than one.
Oh, absolutely. Context is king here. Let's use soap again.
Okay.
Soap is usually a staple in your bathroom, right? You always have it.
Yep.
But if you're packing for that camping trip, suddenly soap becomes an essential for basic hygiene out there.
Right. Got to have it for that specific situation.
And then imagine a public health emergency, like preventing disease spread. Suddenly, access to soap becomes a public health necessity. Same item, 3 different labels depending entirely on the context.
Wow. Okay, that soap example really clarifies it. It's not always the item itself, but the why and when behind needing it.
You've got it. Tone and context make all the difference.
So this is something for you listening to think about too. Look around your own life. What are your everyday staples? The coffee, the specific brand of toothpaste?
Mm-hmm. And what are the essentials for your job or your hobbies? What can't you do that activity without?
And then what do you truly consider the absolute necessities? The non-negotiables for you or, for society?
It's actually a really useful exercise. Just to quickly recap, staples are your regulars, essentials are vital for specific tasks or situations, and necessities are those absolute fundamental requirements.
Definitely clear now.
Yeah.
And here's something to chew on. How might really understanding these nuances change things for us? Like how we prioritize our spending.
Or even just packing for a trip, thinking in those categories.
Yeah. Or how we view societal needs and support systems. What does the way you personally categorize things as staples, essentials, or necessities say about what you value most?
That's a great point. Our language really does reflect our priorities. Lots to think about there.